Good morning, January 10th, 2023 on a weekday. I had to go look, it's Tuesday. That's why I said weekday, because I wasn't sure. Let's see if I can get an audio confirmation when this thing comes live. So far, it's not even showing me that I'm live. There we are. And it's not even showing me that I'm... So I've got audio there. Got a few questions in chat. I got a question that came from email. And Martin, if you're listening, well, if you still want to come into Zoom, you could, but I think we can get along fine without you coming into Zoom. Because of the additional information that you sent me with your questions. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but I'm going to take care of a couple other things first. Dennis asked, what causes network discovery to turn off by itself? I have had that happen on many occasions, and always the solution for me, I'm just checking to make sure there wasn't something else before Dennis's question, is I suspect that it happens with updates to a network driver, where if you come down to the network icon in the bottom right corner and right click, let me turn my picture-in-picture off, and go to Open Network and Internet Settings, I have seen lots of times that it switches from private network to public network. And the default settings for your firewall on public network should be set to turn off network shares, because you don't want to be having your network shares available to people when you're at a Starbucks. So I see that happen a lot. Anytime a client calls they can't access the server or a shared printer or something like that, I come in here and it's always been change it from public network to private network. And so you click on, let's see, where is it? Not there. Change network properties. It's a little bit different where you do this from one version of Windows to another, whether you're on 10 or 11 or Home or Pro, and I've never really researched it to figure out why, but sometimes it's hard to find this place. But anyway, you want to be on private if you're doing any kind of sharing at all. So I don't know if that's why it's happening for you, Dennis, but that's what I have found. I have never had to go in and actually turn network discovery back on. I just change it from public to private. So that's what I have to say for that. Boat to Fresno. I'm not personally affected by the flooding around here because I don't do much driving around town. Let's see, Josh says, thanks for playing. And Dennis is telling Chris, since I turned it on, Discovery was on. Since I turned it on until this morning, I had to turn it on again. Fortunately, my shares were still intact. So let us know if you find that your computer is switching from private to public, and is that the source of your trouble? Brian Lightfoot, Lauren Dro, I've seen you, Lana, not Laura, sorry, Lana enough. I'm going to turn you blue. How much rain is 41 up in the mountains are you getting? I don't know. I haven't checked on it. I've got other technical questions to respond to today, so I'm going to pass on that for now. Desert Empire waiting for rain. Lana, are you in the Mariposa area? That would be interesting to know. And yeah, there it is. Ran to Dennis about the private to public. He probably didn't change it himself, but I found that through Windows updates, and I suspect with a Ethernet driver update that it gets changed from private to public. Don't know why that happens, but it does. Daniel, observation, it seems you play YouTube videos. It seems playing YouTube videos in Firefox impacts response time when moving or resizing windows for other apps. I think this may be a Firefox or Firefox extension issue. I have had people report that when they're having sluggishness in any browser, disabling all the extensions and then re-enable and find that the symptom is gone, and then re-enable the extensions, maybe one at a time or half of them at a time. I've had people who reported that they disabled all of their extensions and the problem symptom was gone. And then they went back and re-enabled them all one by one, and eventually finding that they re-enabled everything and the symptom was still absent, meaning the system was fine. Just the act of disabling all extensions, re-enabling them was sufficient. So give that a try. Dennis says it is set to private. Jim, inconsistent users interface in Windows. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes Microsoft updates mess up things. Hello, Alan and Dennis. It says it's raining there. Now, I want to go over to email that came in this morning. I had some things that I was intending to be in today's show, but I'm going to hold off on them because they weren't questions from viewers. Martin Hogg, I think you've already told me that it's okay to expose your email address, but I'm still going to try to avoid that. Where am I going to do that? Okay, I'll do that this way. Let's turn the blur on. So the whole screen is supposed to be blurred. Is it? It's not blurred. All right. I didn't have my dual screen set up, so I did not do that right. But Martin Hogg says, "Hi Doug, hope you can help. I have a PC which is not booting and is not recognizing any of the USB ports. To enable a clean install of Windows 10, would I be able to put a Windows 10 Media Creation Tools files on a DVD as the machine has DVD CD drive? If not, what do you suggest? I can access BIOS OK, but as the computer is not seeing ports, I am able to input instructions to change." Let's see, say that again. "I can access BIOS OK, but as computer is not seeing ports, I am unable to input instructions to change boot order or use Windows Media via a keyboard or mouse." This is a HP all-in-one computer. He gave me that information on another email, and we actually have the serial number for it. Let's see, that's the BIOS report, but it's an older HP all-in-one. It's no longer supported. Has a AMI BIOS 2010. Don't actually see the BIOS revision date, but that's enough to know that it's an older all-in-one. And when I come over to get to over here, I put in the serial number for this computer and click submit. There's the serial number if anyone's wanting it. And click submit, we find out that the product is no longer supported. You can't even get drivers or manuals off of this computer anymore for this computer from HP. There is, if you Google HP TouchSmart 310 manual, you do come up with some manual information, but not going to go down that road just yet because his primary question was, can you create media creation on a DVD or CD? Yes, you can. So you do the download for the installation media tool, and then let's see, I'm not going to actually go to get to this point. It takes a couple of minutes for it to prepare, but you get to this step: create installation media, USB flash drive, DVD, or ISO file for another PC. So yes, right there you can do that. That computer will probably be able to boot off of the DVD or CD. Well, DVD, you're going to need to do a DVD because a CD format I don't think is large enough for a Windows 10 installation media. But then another thing you could do is you can go into the BIOS, and those HP all-in-ones have a setting in BIOS in security where you can disable the USB ports. Now, when I first brought that up on my channel, I was told, no, there's no way to disable USB ports in BIOS. Yes, there is on HP all-in-ones. So try exploring the BIOS menu for that, and then you might be able to boot off the USB memory stick. So that gives you some responses. Now, of course, some people are going to be saying that computer's too old, you should be replacing it. Well, I don't know the circumstances behind it, and there are circumstances where people don't want to buy a new computer. If that computer can be fixed reasonably, then I have no problem with fixing it. Is there more to that subject? I'm looking around at the other. Okay, here's he sent me a photo of the serial number from the back of the computer. But we've already been down that road, and there's the actual model number, 310-1205UK. Now let's come back to chat and see what people are saying. So there's my last highlighted item. Morning, working in the background. Used to be in Oakhurst for Lana. now rain, snow in Utah. Oh, she's in Utah. If none of the USB ports are working, that's an issue with the motherboard. Now, the USB ports are working, I suspect, because I think he's got keyboard and mouse connected to USB. What he told us was that he can't boot from USB, right? I'm going to go back and double check on that, because I think he's saying he can't boot on USB, not that they don't work. I have a PC which is not booting. Well, it says not recognizing any of the USB ports, so I don't have that clarified from him. So, Martin, is it that you can't boot from the USB ports, or the USB ports actually not working? And still, in BIOS, they may be disabled. If this was a corporate use computer, or a computer that was available to public use, they might have disabled the USB ports. Then let's come back to chat. Ken's working in the background. Where? I didn't even see him back there. Yeah, sure enough, he's back there in the background. Doug, such a Doug. None of the USB ports, that's an issue with the motherboard. Now, I agree with that if they are enabled in BIOS. But if you're already using keyboard and mouse off those ports, then they are working. You just couldn't boot from them. And then also in BIOS, look for a setting that allows USB ports to be bootable, because I think there's also a setting on some BIOSes that provide that. Burn a DVD on another computer. Well, the DVD drive on this all-in-one is working, but no, the computer won't boot, so that's not going to happen. Yeah, you have to do it on another computer. Dennis, I'm suspecting an anomaly happened to the network adapter driver on that machine, hardwired to my router. For his sharing issue, USB requires 5-volt rail. I doubt that Martin's going to be going into measuring voltages on the USB power rail. Windows 10 installer has grown to 4.5 gigabytes, too big for some DVDs. Okay, thank you. I haven't tried dealing with bootable DVDs. I did not say anything about replacing the computer. No, you didn't, Gary. Did you think that I was talking about you? You're not the only one around here that wants to replace computers. Double-sided grin. I know there's a workaround, disk drive, don't recall the details. Of course, if you have, I've done this before where I connect an external DVD drive in order to boot and install Windows on a computer that's not cooperating with the USB ports. Well, when you can't boot to a USB device, first thing, go into BIOS and check for either UEFI boot or legacy boot. Another possibility would be a BIOS update to that computer. Now, you can't get it from HP because they've just totally washed their hands of that computer, but maybe you can Google search that model computer BIOS update and find something, especially older computers. Dual-sided grin, can't navigate. Martin, but I can't navigate to security tab in BIOS. So does that mean the keyboard doesn't work off of the USB ports? That's what that is implying. And I haven't seen you respond as to whether the USB ports work with keyboard, because you showed me a picture of the BIOS information on the screen. So that doesn't even need a keyboard to get to that point. So maybe that's what you've got going on. You might be at a point that I would have to say also this computer isn't worth salvaging. Now be sure you're connecting to a USB port that is physically attached to the motherboard, not another USB port that might be connected by a internal wire in the computer. Then another possibility is some of those HP all-in-ones have a panel on the back. And it's kind of difficult to spot it, difficult to see it. I've had to go to the manual to see if it has an internal USB port. What they have is a panel that covers a USB port that's on the motherboard that you can plug in a wireless keyboard and mouse dongle in order to use the computer in the environment where you want to disable all of the externally accessible USB ports. So if it has one of those, that might be a way for you to get keyboard active. dual layer, double-sided, DVDs. Sometimes, Mike, certain USB thumb drives do not work well with Windows installation media. I've got 2 of them. I don't think he's having a problem with the thumb drive. Maybe that was in regards to another. Oh, will the USB drive boot on another computer in order to test that your USB Windows 10 installation media is valid and functional? That's a good point. Where did you get this computer? I suspect it was from a client of his. I think he takes computers in from clients. I think he's somewhere between amateur and professional technician. I'm not sure of that. Please don't be offended if I'm way off on that. I had a USB flash drive that would install Windows 10 on one PC, not the others. Over the last 15 years, I collected a pile of USB thumb drives, still getting more. Just bought USB A and C that you can use on either interface. It was cheap. Maybe Martin's computer has a PS2 port, which you can hook up a mouse. Good. Yeah, that's a possibility to be able to connect PS2 keyboard or mouse if it's that old. I don't think 2010 model HP All-in-Ones had PS2 ports, but it might be. BIOS might be locked. Without a keyboard, if you don't have a keyboard that functions, then you can't get into BIOS. How about when you have a USB keyboard attached, can you press caps lock key and numlock key and get a response from the computer? Now I've had people before that say that all you need is to be receiving power through USB in order to toggle those buttons. That may be true. I haven't had any way to verify that. My thinking has always been that if you can't, that the CPU has to respond in order to toggle caps lock or numlock. Now, the reason why I deduce that is because when I have a computer that is locked up, I find the caps lock light stays on and I can't turn it off, or it stays off and I can't turn it on. Same thing with caps lock or numlock. So my belief still is that the CPU has to be involved in caps lock and numlock. So is that working? Lawn Dog, wow, that would drive me nuts. Kenny, 2010 HP has legacy BIOS. I think that they do have UEFI BIOS, but they look like a legacy screen when you can choose between legacy boot and UEFI boot, but it's not a graphical screen that looks, it's a character-based screen. I can't swear to that, but I think that I have seen that. You can try tapping escape key, either BIOS, to go to boot settings with the installation media boot from USB. Keyboard arrows only work in BIOS. Keyboard arrows. This is from Larry, not from Martin. Keyboard arrows only will work. Oh, okay. Well, you're moving. You can't use a mouse in a character-based BIOS in most cases. I think there may be some where that does work. Some people think that when they experience a certain set of conditions with some computers, that's true for all computers. I don't hold that reasoning because that's been proved wrong too many times to me. Jeff, that proves the thumb drive works, but not on a particular machine. I would go back to the BIOS. Gary, he said he could not get into the security tab. Yeah, but why can he not get into it? Is it because he can't maneuver in the BIOS setup at all? I think he did say security tab, but why can he not get into that? So I'm searching for the word security to go back and look at that statement. Let's see, but I can't navigate to security tab. Does that mean you can navigate in BIOS but not get to the security tab? Or is it that the keyboard's not working at all? Don't quite know what that is. And that's what Gary's pointing out here, I think, is that's all he told us. He didn't tell us that the keyboard's not responding. Rare occasions, not so much currently. Go back to traditional plug-in. I need to skip through some things here. Ken does not have a show this morning. He sent me an email letting me know that. With Windows Media on, works pretty well in those situations. Haven't had to, hello Bobby, resort to that method in quite a while because I pretty much get rid of really old machines like XP. Okay, that's not taking us anywhere at the moment. Martin, correct. USB ports are not recognized, so cannot use keyboard. Bingo. There we have that. How did you try to get to the security cab? Well, he can't. Yeah, he's got that answered for us now, probably while you were typing that. That's the way it works on my 2011 HP laptop from Kenny. And let's see, what was Kenny telling us earlier? On a 2010 HP, it has legacy BIOS. You can try tapping escape key to enter BIOS. Go to the boot settings with installation media and select boot from. Okay, so Kenny, when you go into when you're saying legacy BIOS, are you saying that it's the character-based BIOS? Is there a place where you can go in to allow boot from using UEFI devices versus legacy devices? Because if it allows boot from UEFI devices, then it does support UEFI, even if it's not a graphical looking screen. Going back to this comment with Kenny and then continuing on, Jeff to Lawn Dog, another drive worked with no BIOS changes. Has he pulled the battery to fully reset the CMOS? That is a reasonably good thing, because I've demonstrated on HP all-in-ones where if you got a bad BIOS battery, it won't even power on. And I considered that, Hank, that maybe that's what he's got going on here, but the computer does power on, but still fully reset the BIOS. That's going to return BIOS to default settings. Since you can't get into BIOS because the keyboard's not responding, if there's something about BIOS that's preventing the keyboard from working, then this is a perfect thing to do, is pull the BIOS and battery to fully reset to CMOS defaults, and then the USB ports, including for your keyboard, should go back to defaults. Don't you just love the quirks in computers? Yes, I do. I love this business. Gary, Ken is behind the scenes. Oh, that's why we can't see him, because he's behind the scenes. Scenes can be seen. If he's behind the scenes, he can't be seen because he's behind the scene. That makes total sense. Once you get into the BIOS from Jim, if the mouse and keyboard don't work, you're stuck. You can't even get into BIOS if the mouse and keyboard don't work. So yeah, not even getting there. But resetting CMOS by pulling the battery, that's totally sensible. Now I'd want to pull the battery and leave the battery out for a couple minutes. Lawn Dog, sounds like it. If you got no USB connections being active, you got serious problems, unless the CMOS battery fixes it. Is there a hardware reset outside of the BIOS? That's a really good question, and I was thinking the same thing when that subject came up. So let's go see what we can find out about that. So this HP Touch Smart, you know what? Rather than going into this manual area, how about come back here to where I Google search HP Touch Smart 310 Reset, PC Factory Reset, how to reset Touch Smart. Got a lot of things in here resetting. So is there some kind of a access hole? Full factory reinstall, restore, install Windows. And then I'm going to scrub through this and see if it goes to any kind of a reset button. Oh, you know what? I think this is maybe doing a keyboard, but that doesn't help if the keyboard won't interact at all. Did Martin tell us whether you can get caps lock on or off with while the keyboard's connected? He says the USB ports won't work, but how are you judging that? Are you judging that just because you can't get into the BIOS setup screen? Let's see, this is going into Windows. Don't know what this person did here. Going back. Maybe using a keyboard method here. I don't think that one's helping us. I need to go back button, browser back button, see if there's any text-based responses. Factory reset, going to a video, factory reset to factory, have a Touch Smart, have a set. I understand you have issues. Don't worry, I'll try to help you out. Oh, every time I hear that phrase, no, you're not going to be able to help me. Every time they say that phrase, it just, no. Why you press the 0 key to restore factory settings? You can restore factory settings if you go into advanced Windows. Well, that's if you have a keyboard working. Yeah, there might be a reset access hole. Let's see, factory reset access hole. Trying to get to see. Now, if there is no such thing on this computer, then we're not going to find it. So there's the idea there I'm not going to pursue searching that anymore. I'll leave that to Martin and others. Ken is probably on the same side as your exhaust fan. Yeah, he's getting pretty warm over there. Nick stuck on a call, missed most of this today. There is no UEFI BIOS on that old of an HP machine. Just keep tapping the escape key when restarting the computer to get into the BIOS. Select boot options. Well, if the keyboard's not responding, that doesn't help. Doesn't work. So still we're back to pulling the CMOS battery unless there is a reset hole. And Kenny, I don't want to, you telling me that isn't enough to prove it as fact to me, because I don't know where you know that from. If you're judging that from a machine that has not received the most recent BIOS update that used to be available, that might be a difference. I don't know. You might know more on me on that topic, but I don't. If BIOS reset doesn't work, I'll stand by my bad motherboard diagnosis. And that absolutely may be the truth of the matter. Absolutely could be. Not sure how HP makes the motherboard. Now, what about opening the computer and connecting a drive that has a Windows 10 image on it? That's going to be messed up with drivers and such if it was a different computer that Windows 10 installation came from. But I wonder if there's anything there. If you're really wanting to try to fix this. But it may be expedient. I don't know what your relationship is with your client to just say, the computer's gone. I tried my best, but it's time to replace it. And that's definitely what Jim would have done long ago, I think. I think he'll give up on a computer before I will, but oftentimes his is the right choice from a business point of view. Not sure how HP makes the motherboard, but USB ports typically have independent SMD fuses. It would be unusual for all the ports to be dead. Tried setting CMOS, no change. Did you reset it by removing the battery? Is that your method of resetting it? No change. So that's back to Jim's diagnosis of bad motherboard, and that may be the truth. It may be beyond your ability to fix it. Oh, the words don't come out well for Doug today. That canned response on microform really irritates me. Absolutely. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why do you remove stuff? You could put it off to some archive area or something, but to remove it, yeah, I agree. That really irritates. You don't have to support it anymore. But is it that much trouble to just move those documents somewhere else and the drivers that were there? Yeah, that's just really, really unfriendly, put it that way. Nick, what do you think of Minitool Partition Wizard? The old version 10 is still free. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I much prefer to deal with partitions within the Windows environment. I have used tools like that in the past, and perhaps that in the past, and when you need it, now I'll go that way. But anything I can do, like with DiskPart, rather than mini partition tool, I'd rather do it within the native operating system. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I don't argue against somebody else who wants to use tools like that. I think computer's too old, but we have our computers locked down on which keyboard you can use. Is keyboard wireless or wired? And that's what I was getting at with that access door for that USB port that's built onto the motherboard. Now, if you have pulled the CMOS battery, then you've already opened the case up. It's easy to spot that extra USB port that's not accessible from the outside. Doug, is it possible that this all-in-one has USB 2.0 port and 3.0 ports? And yeah, they may not be bootable USB ports. In that era, I would totally expect that. In which case, you've already asked about booting from a DVD, the Windows installation media, but if you can't get interaction with the keyboard, what's the point? You're not going to be able to do anything with it. If I were to run into problems trying to get into BIOS, I would make sure the keyboard is plugged into USB. Absolutely. I've got a lot more comments in here. Hello, Catherine Anna Hauserman. I see you hitting me in orange. I see you hitting me in orange twice. 2.0 ports, oh dear. Back in the day, we were transitioning from machines with USB 2.0, 3.0, sometimes 3.0 stuff would not work on those early motherboards. They had the transition upgrade. I think we've pretty well covered what we can offer him at this point. Now, yeah, in all caps, Gary says, same here, computer gone. Toast, recycle in a recycle bin, not as to reformat it. No post screen either. Oh, no post screen. So you gave me a photo. Let's go back to that photo showing, yeah. Well, no, wait a minute. Isn't this the post screen? Initializing USB controllers. Oh, look right there. The last thing on that photo is initializing USB controllers. So does it just get stuck at that point? Which tells us USB controllers, which I believe on that one are built into the motherboard, are bad, defective, gonzo. Put it in Jim's recycle bin for parts recycling. Elements, where they take all the gold and whatever other materials are in there. If that's where it's getting stuck at, if it just stays there and never gets past it, then clearly that is a USB controller issue. All right, so we are at 30 minutes. Now, on my Fortnite show this morning, I said that I was going to be responding to some troll messages, comments that are on my Fortnite videos, and I'll perhaps do that tomorrow, because it is a very useful thing to point out. And I think it is in response to that troll that I blocked from my channel during yesterday's live stream as a troublemaker. I think he came back to get back at me on my Fortnite channel. So I want to show what he did and discuss what actions a person could take in response. People saying hello to each other, I have an older HP, that's how it works. So that's why Kenny was saying it. He's saying that age of HP doesn't have UEFI BIOS because that's how his computer works. I don't buy that as an authoritative answer. You might have not had the most recent BIOS update that used to be available for that computer, and other HP computers of that era, some of them may have had UEFI capabilities. So that is not sufficient for my evaluation of what's going on. There are no updated BIOS since 2013. That's the only one I get to boot to the install media, but you're right, the CMOS battery could be bad. Yeah, so agree with all of that, and I concur except that your older HP does not have any UEFI capabilities. Catherine Anna Houseman likes that tool. Nick and Catherine like it, and I have no criticism of that at all. If you like it, have at it. I just prefer to use the native capabilities before going to the tools. And my justifications for that have to do with, if I have a whole bunch of different tools, I have to keep up to date with them and make sure I'm using them. When I go to another computer and I don't know the native ways to deal with it, I have to pull out my tools. But if I can fix an issue within the native Windows environment, what's available, then I can get to the job more quickly. And I never have to worry about the updates there. I just use the tools that are built within the operating system. And if you're always using the tools, you lose capability of doing it within the operating system. You are chained to your tools. So those are my reasons for selecting to avoid the tools unless I really, really need that tool. That would make the drivers for the keyboard and USB not work. That would make, yeah, I don't know which of my comments you're responding to there. That would make the drivers for the keyboard and USB not work. Oh, perhaps that was if you were to install another hard drive that already had a Windows image on it. No, I disagree with that because I've done it. I have taken a hard drive that has another Windows image on it, and it works. I might get some error messages, but a lot of drivers are, particularly for keyboard and mouse, they're built within the operating system. And if you switch keyboard and mouse while you're offline, not connected to the internet, it will find drivers for it. They will be functional. So no, I don't buy that one. Athlon X2, 12 years old, CMOS battery fail. This is a real possibility. Now, actually taking the CMOS battery out and replacing it with a new one to be sure that it's got full voltage, unless you're actually measuring the voltage on that battery. That's really seems to be unlikely for your issue. Martin says, thanks for trying anyway. If I want to try booting from another PC, do I need a special transfer cable? Booting from another PC? No, I wasn't referring to booting the problem computer from another computer, but take the hard drive or SSD drive from another computer and connect it internally to the all-in-one to see if you can get it to boot. Now, what is that going to help you? Let's suppose you do get it to boot without any keyboard interaction. If you still can't get keyboard interaction, does that get you anything? I don't know. And for an academic pursuit, Jim's going to cringe when I say it. Maybe not. For an academic pursuit, if you have an easy way to do that, if you have a hard drive nearby that has Windows on it connected to this computer. Now, be careful. You should have an image backup of that drive before you connect it into the HP all-in-one, because that just connecting it and trying to boot on it might alter that drive in such a way that could cause you complications when you put it back into its original computer. Gary, to me and Nick, we would not use a tool like Mini Partition Tool Wizard, Mini Tool Partition Wizard, whichever way it is, except as a Hail Mary to get lost data. If the CMOS battery is bad, yeah, that would be for replacing it. Now, if the CMOS battery is bad and you pull the battery out, you should be getting reset to factory defaults. You put it back in. Could a defective CMOS battery prevent the USB drivers from initializing? Seems unlikely, but still I'd like to have a validated battery. Either measure it to be sure that it's got good strong voltage or replace it. Catherine says there are USB-A to SSD power, USB-A to SSD power data cable. Yeah, USB. Yeah, I think it'd have to be USB-A, what, 3.0, 3.1, something like that. If you have another SSD, you can get one of those cables to connect, but its USB ports aren't working. And it probably doesn't have a bootable USB port. You need an SSD drive to do that. And that age of computer, it could be USB 2.0. And therefore not providing power. I'm not sure at what point USB provides sufficient power. I'm not sure there. Gary, running hair on fire, screaming. That sounds like a good place to end the stream, doesn't it? Yeah, there's the Dougs out there in the living room running around with their hair on fire, screaming. Get a multimeter and measure the USB voltage. Wow, stick the probes of the voltage meter into the USB port to see if it has voltage. If you get yes or no, what are you going to do then? The keyboard's still not working off of those ports. What is that going to do for you? I don't know. There's my email address if you'd like to send a question you'd like me to address during a Windows Daily Show. Here's another one of those spam calls. Don't fall for that USPS scam that I fell for. You can send an email to that address for something to me to respond to, or if you want to do a session where I connect remotely to your computer and we try to deal with something, or you come into a Zoom session, all of those. And Gary's saying if no voltage, the port would be dead. If there is voltage, it's still not responding to the keyboard. So if you say it's not dead, but it still can't work with a keyboard, what does that gain you? All right, I hope that was useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.